Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us for day 3 of the Singapore FinTech Festival. It's amazing to have everyone here to learn and grow together. So welcome Crystal. I know this is
Hi.
probably your first Singapore FinTech Festival stint.
Yes, it is. I'm so excited to be here with all of you. Hi, everyone.
So we are super honored to have you here today because not only are you probably the world's work bestie, you are Elevandi's own work bestie as well.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so to share maybe a reason why we really wanted to invite you here today. So I know you have a podcast, Comfort and Growth, right?
Yes.
And then my colleagues and I, we are super obsessed with the podcast, right? We will listen to it and be like, hey, do you listen to the podcast this morning on the way to work? And then we were like, yeah, then we'll start raving about it.
Oh, thank you. That's so sweet.
So I think aside from, your having you here today, we really want to learn and take away some valuable tips on becoming an empowered and successful individual like yourself.
Well, I'll do my very best to do candid sharing over here. I cannot promise you, any life-changing advice, but I think just sharing and hearing each other's stories can be sometimes quite useful.
So I know, Crystal, you are someone who wears many hats, right? Not only are you an entrepreneur and a leadership coach, you are also a podcaster, an author of Deep Human. You're a social media superstar and a two-time LinkedIn top voices alongside PM Lee.
I'm not sure if PM Lee is excited to be listed alongside me, but I'm very excited to be listed alongside our PM, yes.
I know every time when we talk about the LinkedIn top voices, you'll shout out to PM Lee's social media team as well.
I think all of us are very shameless. In the top voices, the top 15 voices, the inaugural one, right? When we saw the list come out, then we saw, wow, Lim-Lange are number 3. Then we all, wow, Lim-Lange is in the same list as us. But I don't think he actually even knows that he's on the list. So
yeah, so we probably need to write him an email or even drop him a LinkedIn message.
please get MAS to do it, Ken. Got more credibility. Yes.
So I'm super curious, right? Because I know you're one for detail. I'm also one for detail. So
Yes.
could you walk us through a day in your life? Like really go down to the details on how you do so many things in a day.
Okay. Well, I wasn't expecting this question, which is really good because I love off-the-cuff stuff. There's no such thing as a typical day. Like I literally just got off the plane from Rome to Istanbul to here and got on here, and I travel quite a lot. But I think one thing that is really important that I talk a lot about a lot is not starting your day with OPP. And what do I mean by OPP? OPP stands for other people's priorities. Good student. You know, other people's priorities is like in the morning, the first thing you do, you wake up, you grab your mobile phone. Every single notification on your mobile phone is another person or another company's priorities. They are looking to harvest your attention for their own needs. They want you to do something, reply to something, look at something. Is any of that your priority? Very, very, very seldom of the time. So I always say you don't start off your day with other people's priorities. Put yourself first. And that means even taking 5 minutes when you open your eyes, just come back to your body. Who are you? What are you about? What is your energetic state? What inspires you? What are your values? What do you want to get done today? But starting with yourself is so important for success. Because after all, if we let our life be governed by other people's priorities, you find that you live a life that pleases other people, but not yourself. And that is ultimately not meaningful to you.
Right, and I think because most of us, we are geared in a sense where we always open our WhatsApp messages first, or even our Slack message when we work from home, right?
Yes.
And we get so overwhelmed. The first thing we see, oh, these are the things that happened last night.
Yes.
And the first thing we do is to react to them.
Yes,
And
that's
we're-
right.
And we're not prioritizing ourselves in a way that allows us to efficiently go about our day, right?
And you mentioned a very important word, which is reaction. Now, there are two things. There's reaction, and then there's response. And there's a difference. Stimulus happens and we have a choice. Somebody yells at us, we receive an email, all these are stimuli. When a stimulus happens, you have two paths you can go through. Reaction means I automatically, instinctively react without thinking, and that is unconscious, that is autopilot, that is not a choice. The other route is stimulus happens, but we pause and we create a space in which we actually respond. And response is a considered thing. It's an intentional thing. And it's a thing in which we choose. We are taking a moment to assess, given all of this data, what is the wisest course of action? And that is actually why, like for instance, in medicine and in healthcare, the word reaction is normally a negative thing, right? The patient had a negative reaction to that drug. Yeah, but response is normally a positive thing. Patient is responding to that course of treatment. So I really want to commend you on that particular word, because we in life, we have to be more intentional. When stuff happens, when I pick up my mobile phone and I see a triggering email, or if my boss says something that offends me, all these are triggers. And these triggers will happen 100,000 times a day. Even when you look at Bloomberg, all this stuff that's happening is triggers, right? You have a choice at any point of time. Do I react instinctively, unconsciously, autopilot, or do I actually stop, breathe, and carve out a space? And I love Viktor Frankl, who was a German psychologist. Man's Search for Meaning,
yes,
right?
Sorry, I read
yeah,
the book.
Yeah, that's right. He wrote this book, and he wrote, I'm going to paraphrase, between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in this space lies all of our power and all of our freedom. If every single time a trigger happens, all we do is react, we're just mindless. We're just like AI. And I mean, not even as good as AI. We're just like robots, right? But the trick is when all these things happen, how do we actually pause and then breathe and then open up a space and consider, what are my values? What is my higher self? What choices can I make that are the wisest choices? And that is the difference, actually, between intelligence and wisdom. Right. Artificial intelligence, or intelligence, by the way, is optimizing variables, right? But when we talk about human wisdom, and what separates us from the robots is the ability to combine that processing with ethics, with values. Yeah?
So I think this is really a juggle between responding and being reactive, and no one is accountable for our own well-being other than ourselves.
Yes, I'm sorry I completely didn't answer your question about what I do in the morning, but it was a philosophical digression.
Every day changes as long as the key concept is there. I think it'll take you very far on how you can properly start your day.
Absolutely.
Maybe we can jump straight into the conversation on today's topic, right?
Sure.
So in today's world, we face unique challenges and expectations when it comes to defining our own success and achieving it. Often it derives from us being unsure of what is going to happen, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years down the road.
Yes.
So how can we define and measure success in a very meaningful and mindful manner?
Okay, well, first of all, nobody gets to define success but you. And success will be very different depending on who you are. Now, we're all here at this thing called FinTech Festival, right? FinTech, what a curious word. It's a hybrid of finance and technology. And finance, money, and technology are both means to an end. They are both multipliers. If you have a lot of money, it can amplify your values. If you're a good person, you have a lot of money, wow, you can do a lot of good things. If you're a nasty person, God help us all, but you know what I mean. But technology is the same way. It's an amplifier. So when you talk about success, I think it's very important to realize that success is about your values and how aligned and how how much you're able to express your values through your life. And for me, for instance, I'm very clear about my core values. In the interest of time, I will only give you 3 of my top values, which are freedom, growth, and beauty. Funnily enough, I'm a great lover of beauty. And
Evidently.
That's why I'm sitting next to you, right? So the thing is that, for me, if I'm successful, for example, freedom, to me, I don't want to earn money just for the sake of money. For what? Look at my bank account every day. But money is so that I can be free. I can say what I want. I can do what I want. I can take on the clients that I like. I heck care the clients I don't like. That is freedom. And in that way, that the money is just a tool for which to measure my value, which is growth. Freedom. So in a way, my metric is how free am I? How much am I growing? That's my second value of growth, personal growth. My third value is beauty. How beautiful is my life? And I think like beautiful also in a way is like full of beauty. So I don't think it's just like a superficial thing. I'm actually very deeply, very much about searching for the beauty in this like very wild and sometimes very dark world that we live in. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah. So I think it stems from like your success is whatever you take your passion to be and utilize it to work in your benefit, right?
I think we got to be careful about this word passion because, I'm in my 40s and...
You look so young.
Thank you very much. I pay her to say this. Sorry, free book for you. So in my 40s, you will realize that roughly every 5 to 7 years, your passion will change. Okay, maybe not all of us, but certainly in my case, every 5 to 7 years, your passions change. They do not stay static. I started off my career as an investment banker. I thought, wow, this is the life. I'm going to do M&As and IPOs. And then I went into sales and trading. Wow, I'm really passionate about sales and trading and all of that. And then sometime in life, you'll realize that, heck, my passion is not my job. I got other areas in my life, my portfolio of life, of which career is one part of my portfolio, but maybe I can derive meaning and passion from another area of life. But what I'm trying to say is that your values tend not to change so much. Your core values, if you really touch your heart and you really examine and you look backwards, you realize that there's some remarkable consistency in the things that brought you awe, in the things that you did when you were a child, even when no one was looking, even when I was a very small baby or a child. I wanted to be free. I wanted to rebel. I wanted to grow. I wanted to learn. And those values stay consistent, even though the passion, which is the expression of those values, will change over our lives.
Right, so your values really can take you far as long as you have the right values inculcated in your life.
I think it's not just, it's also self-awareness about what your values are, right?
Right. So I know you mentioned that you were from the investment banking field, and then after you transitioned out to do what you love right now, right, which is coaching people.
Leadership consultancy and, really educating people. So I think
education is the crux of what you love, right?
Yeah, I always say like my life's mission is 4 words. It's like shifting consciousness, unlocking potential. That's what it is.
So could you share, because exerting one's voice and making a valuable contribution can be both empowering yet very, very daunting, especially, for those who are just starting out and they're not unsure how to utilize their voice, and also those who are new to a new organization and they're not very sure of the pathways ahead, and they're scared to step on the wrong people's toes, right? So what strategies do you believe are effective for individuals to exert their voices and to contribute meaningfully in a professional setting? Because I think not just communicating words, right? You also want to be effective and impactful in what you are saying in the organization as well.
Okay, I'm going to be mildly controversial. So those of you who don't, very, very PC type people, please close your ears. Singaporeans are damn conflict avoidant, and I cannot stand it. I'm sorry, I'm Singaporean, that's why I can say this. You know what? Companies hire me to talk to Singaporeans because all these Ang Moh trainers, they cannot scold Singaporeans. They cannot stand there and go, wow, you guys are, looks very bad, right? But as Singaporeans, we can scold each other. Okay, so Singaporeans are very freaking conflict avoidant. They don't like poking their neck out. They don't like causing a rustle. They in fact, it's been bred into us since young. I think Confucian values are like children should be obedient, children should be, be compliant. And then I always think, what the heck? We are in this era of AI. Who can out-comply a robot? Who can be more obedient than AI? If that's all we are and all we're training our youth for, they're all going to be obsolete, okay? Game over. So the first thing I want to emphasize is that we are living in an AI revolution. Make no mistake of it. In this 100 years, this is the most confusing, chaotic, and exciting time that our generation has been through. By the way, I must say that my generation, not yours, you're very young, is like a very unique generation in mankind history. We're the only generation that has known life before smartphone and after smartphone. No other generation in humanity's history will be as unique as my generation. Gen X, thank you.
You guys are so skilled in pivoting. Natural pivoters.
But that's the thing, right? Because we didn't have a smartphone growing up, we had to use all these soft skills, all this innovation and all this kind of stuff. And then we learn how to actually pivot and be agile. So coming back to your point, what I want to emphasize is that in a world of AI, ChatGPT can give you the most informed and the most colorless answers. without a personality. Okay? So that means that the relevance of humans in the real world has to be your personality. What kind of opinions do you have? And I'll tell you a story. When I was in investment banking, I actually switched from corporate finance to equity sales. And this is a very drastic switch. So I didn't know anything about equity sales. All I knew is that my boss said, every day you call all these fund managers and then you sing them a song about what they should buy, what they should sell, what is good, what is bad. And then in the early days, I was like very Singaporean, very kiasu. I called up my client, hi, Andralynn. Hey, today we got a report on Singtel. You know, some people say should buy, some people say should sell. The data for is like this, the data against is like this. Then one day, one of my fund managers, a very legendary hedge fund manager, he's cut me off halfway.
Can I guess the reply?
Yes.
Go straight to the point.
Well, it was that, but he said something. He said, Crystal, your job, my job, is to decide what to buy, what to sell. Your job is to tell the damn story. And I was like, wow, what does that even mean? And he said, your job is to have a freaking opinion. I get to choose whether I want to buy this story, I want to sell this story, but your job is to tell the freaking story. I don't want you just to be some aggregator of knowledge like JetGPT. Some people say buy, some people say sell. Have a freaking, grow a pair. And us women got a pair, ovaries. Not just men. So I tell you, that was the day I realized that you have to have an opinion. And since then, Auntie is not short of opinions. And I know some Singaporeans, they write to me all the time and they'll be like, how you have so many opinions? How come you can just like that, like that, like that? I'm like, excuse me, everybody has opinions. The problem with Singaporeans is that we self-censor. Internally, we got mute button.
Yes.
We want to, forget it. Don't forget it. I better not say. This is the internal mute button. So coming to your point, finding your voice. The first thing is believing in yourself and overcoming the internal mute button, believing that you have something of value to say. Of course, the second thing is a contradiction, because I always like to say, don't say something for the sake of saying something. Say something because you have something to say. Don't say something, have something to say. That means the second principle is create value. And third principle is research the damn hell out of it. Before you open your mouth, freaking do your research lah. How many people go into meetings, they don't even know who is this person, what's the context, what is this company about, all that. You need to have done your research. And one thing I'm very grateful for investment banking is that it taught me the power of discipline, respect, and research. If you dare to go for a pitch, and you don't know the face and background history of everybody sitting around the table, you're in trouble. In investment banking, our pitch, we have this thing called placemats. What is a placemat? Before we go for the pitch meeting, every single person that's around the meeting, we will make a diagram of a table. Then we will put their face around the table. Then we will put a sort of bullet points of who they are, what they like, what their motivations are, background history, everything. So that by the time we walk into the meeting, we're like CIA, we know everything already. Yeah? And that is the kind of discipline that I was brought up in. It's like having the sheer respect to actually do your homework so that when you open your mouth, you are giving an informed opinion, but you're not just talking for the sake of hearing your voice.
So know your value and also have your knowledge together even before you want to exert something out in the open, right?
I think, and this all is synergistic, right? If every time you open your mouth, you are creating value, you actually listening to yourself. Every time you speak, your own ears are listening to yourself, and you are developing this virtuous loop where you are gaining more and more self-confidence in yourself, and then the internal mute button then gets deactivated more so that you have exercised this muscle of being able to just flow with the circumstances.
And be confident as well, because you really know that whatever you say, there are very little criticisms can also come in. So
Yes.
I know you hit a few nerves in people because I saw them laughing when you were saying about how Singaporeans have an internal mute button. So I think moving from there, right, how are we able to reframe our minds to empower ourselves to achieve that self-fulfillment and self-actualization of removing that internal mute button?
So I think it is all about doing it. I can say all kinds of wonderful things, but at the end of the day, it's like going to the gym. Hey, you want to get a better body? You don't just talk about it, You don't just go scroll into Instagram. You got to actually bloody hell go to the gym and exercise your muscles, right? So it's the same thing. We want to speak up. You don't just talk about it and don't go and follow all the Instagram accounts of people like me and speak up. No point. Do it. Go to, what you do is that you actually set yourself small little challenges every day. As simple as today's micro challenge is when the lift doors open, the next person that walks in, I'm going to say hello. Exercise your vocal cords, your speaking up muscle. Do something that is out of your comfort zone, even if it's just making one line of conversation with the Starbucks barista. And once you get over that kind of like, that kind of inertia of like, that's where you actually become much more confident.
Right, so this is your sign. When the next time you go and meet someone that you're not familiar with, or if you're not seen for a very long time, just go up to them, say hello. You don't know what's gonna come up next.
Say Crystal told you to do it. Can blame me, okay?
So I think, Crystal, since we only have about 8 minutes left.
Oh, wow, time flies.
Time flies, right? Oh my God, the conversation was just flowing so well. You're natural at this. So we'd like to open the floor up to some questions, because I know, you guys would like to ask some questions as well. So we have a mic runner. Feel free to unmute yourself, your internal mute button, and ask some questions.
Yes, and I heard some very hard questions already from the Meet the Authors
session.
Author session. So yes, don't hold back. I love this. It's like an experiment. Greg, are you?
No, there's a.
Oh, there's a mic runner.
Yeah, there's a mic runner.
Yes.
Anyone have a question? This is your first step into unmuting your internal mute button.
I tell you, yes, over here. Thank you.
I think maybe you can start to introduce yourself as well.
Yeah, it's on.
Hi, my name is Hannah. My
Hi.
question really is on the whole Singapore culture. As you say, we have a lot of mute buttons, but we also have a lot of people who are not very willing to listen to differing opinions.
Yes.
So I guess when approaching that unmuting portion, how do you kind of overcome this maybe fear or even realization that people, would be against what you're saying, and then just moving away from that and building the confidence to continue the journey of unmuting?
Yeah, this is a fantastic question. So it's this balance of empathy and assertiveness. Empathy, on one hand, you want to listen. You want to make sure the other person feels seen and heard. By the way, I should say, as a digression, every single person has 3 fundamental human needs. When their mouth is opening, they're only looking for 3 things. Do you see me? Number 1. Number 2, do you hear me? And number 3, do I matter to you? Or does what I have to say matter to you? So those are what we call empathic needs. So on one hand, we have to make sure that the person we're talking to actually feels seen and heard and listened to before we interject. But the other thing is that at some point of time, we got to cut and we got to get in there and we got to assert ourselves. So it's that balance. So I think a couple of tips. The first thing is that you need to understand what their motivations are. There's different intrinsic kinds of human motivation. Some people are motivated by safety, kiasu, risk averse. Some people are motivated by results. Some people are motivated by ego. They want to be seen. Some people are motivated by, for example, joy and harmony. So you've got to kind of like have some sort of emotional literacy and figure out my counterpart, this stakeholder, when they're talking, what is their motivation? And if I know what their motivation is, like let's say they're a very risk-averse person, and that's why they're against you, you need to work with that motivation. You need to acknowledge it. You need to say something along the lines of, I totally agree that managing risk or safety or whatever it is so important, and that's exactly why I have some thoughts on this issue as well. So it's aligning your interest strategically with their motivation. That is part of it. And last practical tip, when I cut in and say something, I don't cut in with a but and I don't cut in with a no. It's important to cut in with a yes and an and. So for example, Andralynn, I want to demo with you. You are going to blather on about something and then I'm going to demo how I would cut in, okay?
Oh my God, Krista, I'm so excited to be here with you today. Like, it's so amazing, like just having this actual podcast.
Yes, I'm so excited too. Okay, you see, like, so she was talking, then yes, and then yes. So when you cut in with a very empathic yes, it makes people feel not so offended.
Yeah.
Imagine if I cut Andralynn with no, but why? Hey, sorry. That's the worst because you are going against. So sorry, psychological tactics here.
Psychological safety, right?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks so much for the question. Who's next?
We have time for one more question.
Oh, one more, yeah.
Yeah, one more.
Hopefully one or two more. Yes. Over there at the
over
back.
there.
Yes. We have a mic coming to you.
Hello, hi. My name is Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi. I would like to ask regarding. I have a colleague that has a huge mute button
Oh,
inside
wow.
of her. Not her, not my friend.
Making sure that that's known.
Yes. And how can we help?
And whenever she speaks out, whatever comes out from her mouth sounds very rude because she
Right.
doesn't have the communication skills.
I see.
So in that case, how do I let her know that she needs to work on her communication, on her mute button, without offending her?
Right.
Wow, this
Well-
is a podcast episode.
I think that's a fantastic question. So really what you want to do is that you are trying to give some feedback to your colleague about how her communication could be even more effective, right? Now, giving feedback is a little trickier when this is a peer, when it's not a direct report, right? Because technically you don't have that much control over the other person. So your best chance of doing this is something more of a sharing approach. So for instance, I might, instead of saying, wow, Andralynn, you speak out the way, very garang, let me tell you, everybody, it's, excuse me, you're not my manager, why should I listen to
I'll
you?
start to tear up.
So a good way is actually do a little sharing. Say, hey, Andralynn, I've been thinking about, sharing something with you that's been on my mind. I wonder whether you would have 5 minutes for me to share like a story with you. So you're sharing a story, you're not giving advice. Then I might say to Andralynn something like, hey, just to share, earlier on in my career, I actually noticed that I learned this thing about our culture. In our culture, in our firm, right, Elevandi, there's a lot of people sometimes can be easily offended. And one thing I learned is that when I started off in this Elevandi, I was like, wow, very, loud, and then just like whatever, very brash and giving my opinion. Then I really actually found out that I was more effective when I took this sort of approach and then do the sharing that way. And then so it's kind of like, and of course, there's advantages to every types of strategies. But, if you're just sharing a life experience with them, they can take it or leave it. And you've kind of done your best by trying to offer them that gem of wisdom.
Comes across as less aggressive, right?
Yeah, and also less presumptive. And I always kind of say, for what it's worth, I would never dream of telling anybody how to run their life, and by no means am I like the oracle of anything. But, I thought that one thing that you could consider is perhaps using we words, or instead of I think, I want, or whatever. Sometimes what works really well with this stakeholder, where's Yong-Liang, what works really well with Yong-Liang, I've discovered, is when you use this kind of tactics. So, what I always say, the enemy of your enemy is your friend. You go and find some stakeholder that both of you find very problematic to deal with, and then you kind of like, wow, I found this way to Tai Chi this stakeholder. Sorry, Yong-Liang, no offense. Yes, any other questions?
Thank you so much for your question.
17 seconds only, not allowed to ask.
Yeah,
Got giveaway or not?
I'm so sad. Do you want to do a giveaway?
Yes.
Let's do an impromptu one.
So we have one book to give away. This is a test of the internal mute button. Whoever wants the book, please tell me what is your biggest tip on how to speak up at work.
Okay, we start with the countdown. 3, 2, 1, raise your hands.
Yay! Okay, over there.
there.
Yes. Over here? Can you raise your hand again? Yes.
Congratulations.
Hi, I'm Evelyn. I'm a teacher. So my greatest strategy to overcome this is always be the first person to speak.
Yay!
Nice.
Big round of applause for Evelyn.
Yeah.
Woo!
Thank you so much, Crystal, for sharing with us so much insights with us. I mean, usually our clients pay this, but we are so thankful to have you here with us today.
I don't worry, I got bill coming later.
Oh.
I'm just joking. Just joking.
So, giving us such an abundance of new knowledge to learn, reflect, and also journal on to grow in life and grow through life. So, thank you so much for spending your time with us today at the Singapore FinTech Festival.
Thank you so much,
Thank you,
everyone,
everybody, for
coming.
joining us
It's
as
a pleasure.
well.
See you all again.